This is Walt Disney World today. Give us 5 minutes and we'll give you the world.
It's Monday, October 17th, 2005, and this is episode number 11 for Walt Disney World Today. I'm your host, Matt Hochberg from mgmstudios.org, and here with us for this show is trip planning guru Mike Scopa from mouseplanet.com. Welcome, Mike.
Hi, Matt.
And today we've also got Len Testa back. He's, of course, the co-author of the unofficial guide to Walt Disney World and the guy who runs that little website known as touringplans.com. Welcome, Len.
Hey, how's it going, Matt?
Pretty good. You got power back in your apartment?
I do in the office. It was some loose wires, but nothing's burned down, so thanks very much for asking.
That's good. Well, today we're going to be talking about half-day touring strategies at Epcot, and a little bit later we'll also be talking a little bit about the recent Food and Wine Festival, and we're also going to hit upon how to best prepare for a Walt Disney World road race. So let's start off with Epcot, and the best way to see what there is if you only have half a day at the parks. A lot of people have... They contact you a lot about how to best see Epcot if they only have half a day. Is that right?
Right. One of the common questions we have is from people who either who arrive in Orlando like on a Saturday morning and have a Saturday afternoon free, or alternatively they've got a morning free to do something, but their flight leaves in the afternoon. So they've got about half a day, either a morning or an afternoon, to tour Epcot. And they want to know what to see, what the best things to do in CR in half a day. So we've come up with a couple of different strategies on there, and I'm sure Mike, since Epcot is one of his favorite parks, will also be able to chime in on this too. But really, the half day depends on whether you've got a morning or an evening available. In the morning, of course, you want to start in Future World because that's what's going to be open. And if everyone is in your group is relatively or is old enough to experience the thrill rides and is willing to experience the thrill rides, you really want to start with Test Track and then Mission Space, and then hop on over and grab a Fast Pass for Soarin' as step 3 in your touring plan, and from there concentrate the rest of your morning in Future World West. I think that's a pretty decent morning strategy. What do you think, Mike?
I think you're right, Len. I think that you hit a very important point. And when you say morning, I think that's the key word there, because if you get there afternoon, after the 12 o'clock hour, then I think that some of the things that you suggested may be a little tough to do. I know that in the past week that I've been there, I noticed that the Soarin' distribution times extended very much into the night, and as a matter of fact, by 2 o'clock they were all out of the Fast Pass tickets. So I think that it's important to note that after, unless you get there no later than mid-morning, some of the things that you would have liked to have done in Future World may take a little bit more time, and then you may have to concentrate on World Showcase.
I think something else that's interesting is it also depends on what your priorities are. I think if I have half a day, I'll ride probably 1 or 2 attractions in Future World, but my priorities may be to go to World Showcase and experience a lot more over there. I think that if I only had half a day, that would be where I would do it. So I think folks also have to keep in mind what they're most interested in doing and kind of highlight those areas.
Yeah, in the morning, though, don't forget, World Showcase isn't going to be open until 11, so if you're getting there at 9, or if you've only got 9 to, let's say, 12 or 1, you pretty much forced yourself into Future World there. And there's certainly enough to see in Future World. One of the things that I think surprises people when they get into Epcot, and especially in Future World, is that the shows and presentations in Future World are considerably longer than what you're going to see in the Magic Kingdom. Like, for example, in the Universe of Energy, or Ellen's Energy Adventure, the pre-show and the show itself takes like 35 minutes. Whereas I think the longest running thing in the Magic Kingdom is, 11, 12 minutes? No, what's Hall of Presidents? Like 19?
Yeah, I think it's in the...
that's it. But really, there's this trend in the Magic Kingdom to cut down on show length. I blame this on the shortening attention span of the American public. And for those of you who are still listening, by the way, 3 minutes into the show, it's it's chronic around all of Walt Disney World. But Epcot shows are pretty long. I mean, you'd really be booking to get 5 or 6 things done in a morning, I would think, before noon.
Any guidelines, any good tips perhaps as to, some people may not have different priorities and all of that, but what would you say is probably, a couple of just good things to keep in mind for people who are touring half day at Epcot?
See, if you're doing that morning, you're only going to be able to see a couple of the big thrill rides before crowds will build, and you'll have to use FastPass. So you really want to consider of the headliners what your top two are, and see those first. And
also, the park is so large that you also have to keep in mind the time it takes to walk around to get from point A to point B, right?
That's true. The park is considerably larger than the Magic Kingdom.
Okay.
In the afternoon, it's a little bit different because it depends on what time of the afternoon you're getting to Epcot. If you're getting there around noon, 12:30, maybe till 1 o'clock, I think a clockwise tour of World Showcase is better because lines will not have developed, or at least lengthy lines won't have developed at Maelstrom at Norway. Mm-hmm. And you're actually better off, according to our wait time statistics, doing a clockwise tour and getting Norway in second right after Mexico. And the other advantage of doing a clockwise tour of Epcot in the afternoon is that you end up near France, the United Kingdom, and Canada around dinner time. And we think there are some pretty good restaurants there. And also it's prime viewing locations for Illuminations. So a clockwise tour there has some definite advantages. But if you're getting there later in the afternoon than that, you really want to start in Canada and go counterclockwise. Again, you're just waiting the crowds out at Maelstrom and rides like that. So two different strategies there.
Okay.
And again, let me apologize to Mike Scopa for blowing off his dinner reservation at Le Cellier last Friday. It was a reservation for 10 people, and I didn't show up.
And I'd like to add to what Len mentioned about how the theme park is a large theme park, and it takes time to go from one point to the next. I would say that in Future World, however, you can go across, whereas you cannot go across the World Showcase Lagoon. So it's a lot easier going from point to point in Future World than it is in World Showcase, where in World Showcase you have to go in a sequential manner, whereas in Future World you can use a dynamic approach and go either across or you can go around Future World.
That's a great point. And while we're at Epcot, we're also going to be talking about the Food and Wine Festival, which is currently underway, and it's been another success for the most part. But Len, you have an interesting tidbit for our listeners about it. Is that right?
Yeah, I actually thought about this the podcast when I was going through France for Food and Wine last week, and I noticed on the we did the show on Food and Wine, but we didn't get into any detail about the menu, and so here's what's being offered in France this year. They've got three offerings. The first one is escargot, which is snails, for those of you who don't know, in garlic. Then they've got some sort of cheese plate, and then they've got chocolate creme brulee. And I thought to myself when I saw this menu, if there's anything simple that illustrates the paradox that is modern France, it's having snails and chocolate creme brulee on the same menu. I mean, to me, that's it right there. It's like, okay, you're going to eat some bugs, but in the end, we're going to give you this chocolate creme brulee. Yeah, amazing. That was just fascinating. And I've got a great Bistro de Chefs de France story if you guys want to hear it.
Absolutely.
All right, so Bistro de Chefs de France was the only restaurant in Epcot that I hadn't eaten in so far. So made reservations for Saturday night. The four of us, a couple of the researchers went. We get there, we had to wait like 15 or 20 minutes. We get seated. It was a long day. We did hotel research all day. And the waiter comes over and says, do you guys want to order a bottle of wine? And, well, none of us are big drinkers. So we said no. But he said, okay, well, why don't you guys try this? There's this drink, and he's got this heavy French accent. I couldn't really understand exactly what he was saying, but he's like, it's got champagne and some sort of cranberry juice. Why don't you guys try it? So we said, yeah, okay, bring one for everyone. So 4 people at the table. He brings it, and it comes in a champagne flute. And it's like it's champagne with like a cranberry juice on it, right? So I have a sip of mine, and it's okay. I'm not a big drinker anyway, but like my brother-in-law and my sister just love them, and they're downing like. I think my sister drank like 4 during the meal, and my brother-in-law drank like 5, and I think the other researcher that was with us had a couple, and we didn't think anything of it. And then we get the bill. So these little things that the waiter just recommended sort of offhandedly. Guess how much they are a glass?
$8.
$12.50 a glass.
Wow.
So we drank like 11 of them. It was like, none of us thought to ask, well, how much is it? So we ended up with our alcohol bill for this meal, and none of us were drinking other than these things. We're like $140 in alcohol. So it was like a $330 bill. I'm like, there's no way I can expense this to Bob. We have to pay for this one ourselves.
That's great.
So mental note, or a memo to everyone here who goes to Bistro de Chef de France, the waiter's going to come by, he's going to offer you this charming drink with champagne and cranberry juice or whatever. Ask him how much it costs before you decide to have one. It really wasn't worth it. I was like, we could have had a bottle of Dom.
And Mike, I think you would agree that that perhaps drinking before a road race is not the best strategy to use.
Well, it depends upon how fast you want to go and if you want to go in the right direction, I guess.
Do you have, though, some more general, better tips for some of our listeners about preparing for a road race?
I do, Matt. I think that last week I had the unusual experience of running in 2 Disney World road races back-to-back on a Saturday and on a Sunday. And in those 2 days, I ran through 3 theme parks. So that was quite an experience, and I learned a lot from that experience, and I thought it would be a good idea to pass them on to anyone who would be thinking about potentially running a road race down there. And Len, please jump in, because I know you've run the half marathon, so please add to anything that I say that you think would be helpful. First thing, it goes without saying that you have to make sure that you train for your race. Depending upon what the distance is, make sure that you're ready to run the race. If you so decide to run in a Walt Disney World road race, my advice is to register early, because they will very well charge you a little bit extra if you register on the day of the race or a couple of days before the race than if you register it about a month or 2 before the race.
Yeah, I mean, for the big races, too, for the marathons.
Oh, yeah.
I think registration closes in August for the January race, so...
Exactly. So if you really want to run the race, you don't want to be shut out. I think it's important to acclimate yourself to the weather, especially for those people who come from the Northeast. Going down there a few days beforehand, getting your body acclimated to the weather, the climate, the temperature, the humidity, I think it's really important. And I also think it's important to get an idea as to how your body is going to react during that time of day when the race takes place. I know that the marathon starts at 6 in the morning, but that means that you have to be ready an hour or 2 beforehand to be prepared. Something very important that I learned last week, and that is that if you're going down there for a road race, you need to take it easy. You need to think about how you're going to tour the parks a few days before the race. You don't want to. You're laughing, but it's true. You don't want to.
It's true.
You don't want. Yeah, you don't want to spend 18 hours.
You don't want to go to bed the
park.
night before thinking, "My God, I'm exhausted. I need a day off."
Exactly. So you really need to take it easy. You need to save your legs, and if possible, if you happen to be in a position where you can actually check out the course, see where the inclines are, see where the turns are, get really familiar with the course. What I did last week is I made sure I had wake-up calls. I had Mickey wake me up several hours before the race so I would be ready. I made sure that I was there at least 1 hour before the race start. That is very important, because I saw people almost missing the start of the race because they waited to the last minute. They wanted to get that extra 40 winks in, and they got there really, really late. So
really?
That's important to me. Yeah, it was amazing, Len, that they held up the start of both races by 15 minutes because they were waiting for those 5% who were late. Well, I say if they're late, why should they penalize the 95% of us who got there on time? So that was something that was amazing. I think that it's important to get there early so that you can warm up and be ready. During the course of the race, if you are a runner, you would be running on the right, on the left. If you are a walker, you should be on the right-hand side. The slower people are on the right. The faster people, the people who are running, should be on the left. That is for safety purposes. Everybody should keep that in mind. If you are a runner and you get frustrated, I think you want to keep running laterally in between and shifting back and forth between people to a minimum. It's possible that you may hurt yourself. It's possible that you may use extra energy, so you want to save your energy. A very, very important point is don't expect to run your best time during these races, because for the most part, if you're running through a theme park or if you're running on the Disney property, you're going to be taking in everything, and you may find that you're so involved in it that you're not concentrating that much on your running. So, bottom line is enjoy yourself. Take advantage of the fun and enjoy yourself. So those are the things that I learned last week, and it was a very enjoyable 2 days. It was a tiring 2 days, but it was fun, and I'm looking forward to doing it again. I'm looking forward to doing the half marathon with Mr. Tester and January.
That's right. I'm gonna remind you about that enjoy yourself comment around mile 11 of the of the half marathon too. No, remember, Scope? I remember you said enjoy yourself. Remember. I can only hope though that the weather last year was great for the half. It was like actually it was a bit warm. They said normally the average starting temperatures in the low 40s. Last year was like 65. But definitely a lot of fun. I mean, if you're interested in running or you'd like to run or you think you'd like to do it and you've never done a Disney race, it's really top notch. Really well organized, except for the timing event last year. But other than that, it's been usually pretty good. They put on a good race and it's a lot of fun.
Well, some great tips right there. And that's it for us today. This has been episode number 11 of Walt Disney World Today. Be sure to visit the Walt Disney World Today website at www.wdwtoday.com for the show notes, as well as the ability to send us all your comments about this podcast. And don't forget to tune into our Wednesday show where we'll be featuring our listener questions. And please be sure to send all of your questions for that Wednesday show and questions in general to questions@wdwtoday.com. As always, you can look for our new shows on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays of every week. For Len Testa, Mike Scopa, and Mike Newell, I'm Matt Hochberg. We'll see you next show.